If you change your mind, you change your life, just change your mind. The Lord loves you. He's standing with his arms wide open for you. Oh, be encouraged, 'cause this day's for you. Don't you let this opportunity pass by you. Yeah. Oh, change your mind.
Hello, welcome. My name is Kenneth Page, and I'm here on behalf of the Changing Your Mind Ministries ROC Youth Department. I'm excited to be with you all today. Thank you for joining us. Today we're going to work on the Teen Bible Study. A little extra sound right there. We're going to do the Teen Bible Study, and the lesson for today, we're going to be talking about the Ten Commandments. The Ten Commandments. So come on in, let's get started. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about, the circumstances behind the Ten Commandments, how they got there. We're going to actually read through all the Ten Commandments. Then I'm just going to pick out a few and, have a little deeper conversation about it. All right. So I'll give you a chance to, pull out your Bibles, or if you have the Bible app on your phone or anything like that, you want to pull that out. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to turn to Exodus, the book of Exodus. We're going to chapter 20. The book of Exodus, chapter 20. I'll give you a second to get there. While you're turning, I'll let you know about the background that's behind me. What you see is, I'm up on the side of a mountain. I thought it'd be, nice to show you all. Isn't it absolutely beautiful back there? Oh, it's lovely. It's so gorgeous. All right. It's kind of like, when we talk about the Ten Commandments in Exodus chapter 20, when we talk about the Ten Commandments, God gave those Ten Commandments to Moses on the side of a mountain. He asked Moses to go up to the top. He asked Moses to go up the top of Mount Sinai. And there, the Lord gave Moses the Ten Commandments. All right. So I'm hoping you're there by now. Exodus chapter 20, verses 1 through 17. All right. So let's talk about what's going on before we get to this part. All right. So, earlier, we've learned about Moses freeing the children of Israel out of Egypt. Right. So just to recap, God spoke to Moses one day and said, "Hey, Moses, I got a mission for you. I got something I want you to do. I want you to go to Pharaoh, the Pharaoh of Egypt that's enslaving all the children of Israel, and I want you to tell Pharaoh to let my people go." All right, so that was the mission. That was the mission that God gave Moses, to go tell Pharaoh to let my people go. So it wasn't as easy as Moses might have thought it might have been. He had to go back and forth with Pharaoh. Pharaoh really didn't want to let the Israelite people go. He was using them as slaves and having them do all the work and the labor and all of that stuff. So if they didn't have slaves, then who's going to do all that work? So they didn't want to let the Israelites go. So God sent the 10 plagues. He sent the 10 plagues. And after the 10 plagues went through, after the last one, Pharaoh was like, "Oh man, God really isn't playing. Let him go." So the children of Israel, they're gathering all their stuff, and the Egyptians ended up paying them some money too. And they're fleeing, they're leaving. And Pharaoh changes his mind. Like it says, he was like, "Man, if they're gone, who's going to do all this work?" Because it was a whole lot of Israelites. It was a whole lot of them, right? So Pharaoh's like, yo, we got to go get them. So he gets all the chariots and the horsemen, and they're going to go chase the children of Israel down as they're fleeing away. But that's when they come to the Red Sea. And then they're like, oh no, what are we going to do? Because the chariots are coming behind us. And then we got this water in front of us, the Red Sea. What are we going to do? And Moses prayed to God and stuck his staff out. And the winds came and it blew the waters open, so the children of Israel passed through the Red Sea on dry ground. Well, the chariots were still chasing behind them. Pharaoh and the chariots were chasing behind them. And they, you know, the children of Israel make it all the way through. And then by the time they get out of the sea, off crossing on the dry ground, all of the chariots and Pharaoh's people are still out there, and boom, the waters come back down and they drown and die. But the children of Israel are now free. So, now they started their journey in the wilderness because God promised to take them to the promised land, the land of milk and honey, right? So they're going to travel through the wilderness to get to the land of milk. And it ended up, taking them a really, really long time to get there. They could have got there really fast had they been obedient to God. They'd have got there a lot faster. But, they didn't trust God. They were kind of hard-headed a lot. And it took them a lot longer to get there. Hey, there's a lesson in that. It's much easier to get to the places, God wants to take you if you're being obedient than if you're being disobedient. So that's just a reminder right there. But they're traveling through the wilderness, and you got all these people just got out of Egypt. They just got out of slavery, and God is now going to allow them, make them their own nation, right? They're going to be their own nation. They get to worship God. So they're traveling through the wilderness and on the way to milk and honey. So, you got these people. They've been slaves to the Egyptians for 400 years, for centuries. They've been slaves to the Egyptians. They've kind of lost their, the Israelites, the Hebrew children, they used to have their own culture. They had their own way of life, their own way of living, their own way of doing things. But because they were spent so much time in bondage and slavery to the Egyptians, they weren't able, they lost their culture. They lost the things about their way of life. They kind of lost who they were. They lost who they were. So as God is preparing them for this new land he's about to take them to, the promised land, the land of milk and honey, he has to prepare them as an individual, prepare them as people so that when they get there, they'll be able to, have a good and prosperous life. And, again, that's kind of the same things that God wants to do with us. We are where we are right now. However old you are, you are where you are right now. But you have a future. You have a future. You have a purpose. God has a plan for your life. God has things he wants to give you. God has things for you to do. And when you get there, when you get to that point in life, there's a certain way of life that you have to live. There's certain things that you can do and certain things that you can't do and certain things that you can do that you probably shouldn't do. There's all sorts of things that if you don't learn those ways, then it could really forfeit, this blessing that God has for you, this place that God has prepared for you, this place on earth that, God is wanting you to go and affect and make change. So it's the same thing with these children of Israel. God had this promised land for them, this place for them to go, and they needed to know how to conduct themselves when they got there, right? So that's where the Ten Commandments kind of originate and start from. Some cars going by, make sure the sound doesn't get picked up. But there's that's what's going on. God is trying to prepare these people for this new way of life. You were once slaves. You lived as slaves. You thought as slaves. Well, now you're free. Like, your body is free, but God is like, hey, you still got the mindset of a slave. You don't think right. So, I freed you from slavery. Well, now we got to free your mind from slavery. And that's where those commandments came from. Now, we talk about the 10 commandments, but God gave them a whole lot of commandments, a whole lot of statutes. Like, like he gave them their own constitution, as you would say, like a body of work detailing the way they live lives. It talked about penalties for doing things. It really, God broke it down to them like, this is the way that I want my people to live. Now, these commandments, when God told them, he told them, he wasn't at that time, he wasn't commanding all these other nations. He was talking to his children, his people. And you got to understand, when God gives commandment, I think sometimes as a Christian, as a believer, someone, at least trying to follow God, you'll be, doing what you do, and you'll look out and you'll see everybody else doing all these other type of things that don't line up with what you believe. Well, you got to make a decision. You got to make a decision. Am I one of God's people? Am I a son of God? Am I a child of God? Am I redeemed by the blood of Christ? Am I saved? Am I one of God's people, or am I not? And when God gives commandments, he's saying, hey, if you're one of mine, if you're in this house, if you're one of me, there's a certain way that I actually want you to do things, right? So they're going through that. So with all that being said, let's get into the commandments. All right. So now we kind of got like an overall understanding of the reason for the commandments, the purpose of the commandments. It's more than just not sinning. It has so much more to do with just not sinning, but just, a way of life, a way of living, a way of doing things, right? So you should be in Exodus chapter 20 now, verses 1 through 17. So we're going to read them all, then we're going to go back through and talk about some. Now, I want you to know, I believe that this is the New International Version, NIV. I think that's the version that I'm reading out of. All right, so verse 1. And God spoke all these words. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven, above or on the earth, beneath or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of the parents to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. You can also understand, that second commandment as not having idols. Verse 7, you shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, nor your son or daughter, nor your male or female servant, nor your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your towns. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them. But he rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. All right, we're on verse 12 now. Honor your father and your mother, so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. In verse 17, you shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his male or female servant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. All right, so we just read verses 1 through 17 that talks about it. It explains the 10 Commandments. So what I want to do is, we're not going to go over all of them, but we're gonna talk about a few things. We're gonna talk about a few things that we read and dig into some of them. Well, the first thing that I want to point out is, let's go to verse 1 and 2. And God spoke all these words. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. Now, that was important because, again, God wanted them to know, hey, remember who I am. You were in slavery all these years, and I bought you out of slavery. Like, I put in the work to make sure that you were free, and these are the words that I'm giving to you. God wanted to first remind them of how much power that he had. Remember the 10 plagues, parting of the Red Sea. By the time God gets to this point, he's already done a couple of miracles for them. They were thirsty and they came to this place that was just bitter waters. And God commanded Moses, hey, throw this log in the water, and it made it sweet. They got hungry and God made quails come so they'd have meat. God rained bread from, he provided bread to them in the morning for them to go up and gather and eat. They called it manna, called it raining it bread from heaven. So he had already done so many miracles for them, already showcased how much power he had. So you got this all-powerful God saying, hey, you need to do these things. So if an all-powerful God is saying, hey, you need to do these things, there's good reason for it, all right? So let's look at it. So out of the 10 commandments, all right, understand that they're kind of broken down in a particular way. Commandments 1 through 4 talk about how we are to relate to God. Then commandments 5 through 10 talk about how we ought to treat other people, okay? So I want to jump into, well, just verse 1. You shall have no other gods before me. Remember earlier I said we come to a choice, we come to a decision that either we're going to, be children of God and do it his way or do things the other way. Well, every time, you disobey God or you choose to, follow some whoever you're being influenced by, whatever voice or person you're being obedient to, you're like making a god out of them. You're allowing them to completely dictate your ways. Now, don't use that to ignore authority. There's authority in place. Your parents have authority to tell you what to do, and just honor that's a commandment for a reason. If you're in school, your teachers and principals, they have authority to tell you what to do. But when it comes to like honoring and following someone else, worshiping another God, God says, hey, have no other gods before me. So make God the number one influencer of your life. Okay. All right. Thou shalt not steal. Let's jump to verse 15, commandment number 8. Thou shalt not steal, you shall not steal. Now, on the surface, that seems like a pretty straightforward one. We understand stealing is when you basically take someone else's property, take something that doesn't belong to you. And there's many people out here that never steal a thing from a person, and they think that they're not stealing. Well, that's the stealing of property. The stealing means to take something from somebody that doesn't belong to you. Stealing is to rob somebody of something, right? Well, you might not break into somebody's house and steal things out of their house here. You might not go to the store and steal items out of the store. All of those are, very bad, and it's a crime. But what about the stealing that's not a crime? What about when you are really rude to people and you're really mean and you say nasty things and you have a bad attitude towards someone and you steal their joy? You rob them of their joy, you steal their happiness. What about when you are gossiping about a person? When, you get together with some friends and y'all get to key and talk, get to laughing and talking and gossiping about someone or slandering their name. Well, you're stealing their reputation. You're robbing them of a good name. What about when you embarrass somebody or you humiliate somebody, whether it's in public, you might be in school and say a joke or insult to somebody out loud. Everybody hears it and starts laughing at that person. Now, this person is full of shame because you've stolen their dignity. Right? When God talks about, thou shalt not steal, that means you should not take anything from anyone that doesn't belong to you. People have a right to be respected. People have a right to feel dignified about themselves. People have a right, the pursuit of happiness and all of those things. You have those rights just like everybody else has those rights. You deserve those things just like everybody else deserves those things. So why do we think that sometimes it's okay that we steal someone's joy or steal someone's happiness, steal someone's dignity, steal someone's reputation? We got to really think about those things, because again, we're talking about the way in these commandments, this it's like part 2 of the commandments, where God is talking about how do you relate to other people? How is it that you treat other people? In the New Testament, Jesus, they asked him, hey, Jesus, what's the greatest commandment? And Jesus said, basically, if you can get these 2 things down packed, you got everything taken care of. Love God, love your neighbors as yourself. Love God, love your neighbors. If you can get those 2 things down packed, I'm going to love God and I'm going to love other people. And then in there, it's loving yourself too. If you can just get those concepts down, all the other commandments make sense. Everything else falls in place. You won't even have to have a law or commandment to tell you what to do and what not to do, because you already know. You already know. Because you're just naturally loving on people, taking care of people, doing what's right. Okay? So that was thou shalt not steal, commandment number 8. All right, let's jump down to commandment 5. Let's jump up to 5. We're going to be bouncing around, just picking some of them. First, commandment 5: honor your father and your mother, so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. So one, God is, with this commandment, honoring your father and your mother, not only, so that's the commandment, then God tells you the condition, God tells you what you get for honoring this commandment, so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. Okay, so they're talking to the Israelite children, hey, honor your parents, respect your parents, honor your parents, show honor to them, so that you may live a long life in the land that God is giving you. So for you, what does that look like? Honor your mother, father, or, there's so many people out here, and my heart goes out, everyone doesn't have their mother or father around. And, some people have, a particular, a person that's a guardian, and, you honor them. Honor thy father and mother, honor your guardian, honor the person that's taking care of you. And what you have to understand about this commandment, it doesn't say honor them if they're good. It doesn't say honor them if they do everything right. It doesn't say honor them if they're really crappy parents or crappy guardians, right? It just says to honor thy father and thy mother, right? That's the first part of it, showing honor to your parents. One of the things, I don't care how bad of a mother or how bad of a father you think you might have, you would not be alive if it wasn't for them. You would not be here if it wasn't for them. A lot of things had to take place for each person to, make it to earth, but if you didn't have a father or mother, you would not be here. You owe them something. There's a level of honor that you owe them simply because they helped give you existence. Ultimately it's all in God's hands, but without them, you wouldn't be here. For that very reason alone, they are due honor. And honoring your parents, that doesn't always, that doesn't mean that they do everything right. Parents, just like you do stuff wrong, they do stuff wrong too. Just like you don't do everything right, they don't do everything right. And I think sometimes, as a kid, we look at parents, and because they're like so firm with what they say and things like that, and they're older and they act like they know everything they're talking about, you feel some type for it. You want to fight back with them and stuff, but you got to show them honor. You have to honor your parents. You have to honor your parents and respect that they gave you life. They're gonna mess up along the way. They're not gonna get everything right. They give off that front and face, and they might think they're doing everything right, And I guarantee you, there's so many parents, like, there's some things parents don't want you to know as a child or as their kid. Like, you're never going to know sometimes how your parent might discipline you, and then they go turn around in the room and question themselves. You might never know it. You might walk in on them and they might yell at you again. But you don't know, like, they might be sitting there questioning the way they just, handle the situation. You know, parents that they're learning along the way too. But you have to honor them. Honor them just simply means like respecting that they're your parent. You know, don't, I don't know, like just we know what showing honor is. We know what showing honor is. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Just honoring your parents, not slandering their name, like just committing to honoring your parents. Really just honoring them. Like, I know this isn't the exhaustive conversation for it, but it's worthwhile like learning what it means to show honor to people, to esteem people, to show someone that, hey, you're important. To honor someone basically means like, I'm not going to treat you like I treat everybody else. I might treat everybody else here, but because I honor you, I'm going to treat you a little bit better. I'm not going to talk to you any type of way. I'm definitely going to mind my tongue with you. I'm going to check my tone. Like, I'm not going to pop off at my parents. I'm not going to rudely talk back. There's a way to, you're going to not see eye to eye with your parents all the time, but there's a way to address them with honor. Hey, letting them know, like, you might not agree with them or you don't understand where they're coming from. There's a way to communicate that without dishonoring your parents. It's important to honor your parents. And you look in the Bible with Noah's children, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Two of them, Noah got drunk. He got drunk. He got drunk. I guess you can call it in public. There wasn't a lot of people on earth at the time. So he gets drunk, and his three sons find him. Two of them, Noah's drunk and naked. Like, he had a great night, drunk and naked. Two of his sons show honor to Noah by hiding his nakedness, by covering him up. One of the sons exposes his nakedness. The two that showed Noah honor ended up becoming blessed. The one that didn't show honor ended up becoming cursed. But that's an example because Noah wasn't doing the right thing in that situation. He wasn't in the right by publicly getting drunk and, making a mockery of himself. I mean, you got to be pretty drunk to, pass out naked. So that was an example of them still showing honor to their father, even though he wasn't really showing honor to himself. That commandment, honoring your father and your mother, is just teaching you to show honor to them, regardless of whether they're right or wrong, that you're going to continue to show honor to them. And like, understand when you grow up, when you get, 18 or whenever, however old you are, you can move out the house. I mean, you can go get a job, you can get an education, make some money, be responsible, take care of yourself and move on and still show them honor, but not still be completely subject to, their, tyranny. Cause I know it feels like that sometimes, but yeah, but through all in all, you got to show honor to your mother and father. Okay. I'll jump down to commandment 10. All right. So verse 17. All right. So this one, it uses the word covet. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife or his male or female servant, his ox or donkey or anything that belongs to your neighbor. Okay. So covet means it's about jealousy, but it's more than just jealousy. It's a level of jealousy to the point like, I'm so jealous, like I want that belongs to them and I want it. I want to have it. I want it in my life. I want this and I'm planning to take action to get it. Either talk, and it's not even as far as planning to take action, just a strong desire. Sometimes that desire leads into action. This commandment is talking about, the mindset. The other commandments that talk about, as we're relating to people, give, tangible things to not do. Don't murder, don't commit adultery, don't steal, show honor, don't give false testimony. So those are actual things you do. But when you get to this last commandment, it's talking more about a mindset of covetousness, a mindset of jealousy. So let's talk about why jealousy, when I think of jealousy, the first thing that I think is if you want what somebody else had, do what they did to get it, because everything has a cost. Everything has a cost. There is nothing for free. Nothing is free. Everything absolutely has a cost. Anything you see somebody with, there was a cost to it. And it's not just a financial cost. Yeah, you go to the store and buy things, but there's a financial cost. There's a time cost, the time you have to put in to do something. Working at a place, sometimes people get promoted and sometimes people don't. And sometimes that person gets promoted and, everyone else doesn't like them and they're jealous and all of that stuff. And they're like, I should have had that promotion. Well, what did you do what they did? You know what I'm saying? Did you work as hard as, well, not saying that everyone gets promoted for the right reasons, but assuming that it's a good place, did you do the work that they did? Did you do it with the attitude that they did? Like, did you put in the work? Did you pay the cost? It's literally that simple. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. It costs to get a house. If you want to buy a house in today's society, it costs you credit, costs you money, it costs planning, responsibility, all of those things. Talk about the level of money that you make is going to correlate to how much effort you put in at that job, how hard you worked in school, education, like all of those things play into how much money you make, which then play into kind of the place you live and all of those things like that. Well, if you're not doing what you need to do, don't get mad because you're not getting the things that other people are getting. Like, if you don't do the work, don't expect the reward. You got to pay for it. There's a cost to this thing, baby. You got to pay the piper. So if you're not going to put in the effort, if you're not going to put in the work, don't be jealous for it. You can literally replace jealousy with effort, right? The next time you see somebody that got something and you're like, I want that, rather than be jealous, go have a conversation. Hey, you got this. I want it. I like it. I wish I had it in my life, but I don't. What do I need to do to get this? And sometimes that people don't want to hear the answer. Sometimes, you might see somebody with something and it might have taken them years and years and years and years and years of hard work, effort, and sacrifice to get it. And here you are, wanting to put in 1 week's worth of work to get it. Well, no, it costs more than that. I want to tell you now, and I guarantee you go find any adult around them and ask them to talk about, how their peers were in school versus what they're doing now when they've grown up. You will notice for the majority, the people that, through middle and high school that were, more focused on popularity, thought it wasn't cool to go to class, bad attitude, all sorts of things, versus, the kids that kind of get pushed off to the side, shunned, because, they kind of want to go to class. They don't like cussing teachers out. Like, they try and do the right thing. You'll notice as they grow up, more people from this group aren't doing so well in life or just not happy with their life. And more people from this group are doing better and are happier with their life and are doing things, right? So it's like if you want it, you got to pay the cost. The cost to a successful future is the work that you're putting in now. Like, if you're in school, okay, it's hard. Get over it. Part of it. Part of life. Do it. We can sit here and we can argue about, the purpose of school. Is it worthwhile? Okay, you can have that argument all you want, but the fact of the matter is you need to do it. You're there, learn something, get your grades. It's a toss-up. Do the work. If you don't understand it, open a book and read it. Go talk to the teacher. Ask. There is a way. Quit coming up with excuses because you're going to be 10, 15, 20 years later as an adult dissatisfied with life because you were unwilling to do the things that you needed to do today. Everything has a cost. Your future costs the work of today. The things you want out of your life in the future are going to cost you the effort and the work that you put in today. They talk about don't coveting your neighbor's wife. Okay, when you talk about relationships and you see, this person has a partner, a boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, husband, somebody there. Okay, well, there's a cost to maintaining a relationship, and there's a cost to attracting a high caliber partner or spouse. You might see this really, beautiful person with someone that you think is lame and unpopular, and you're jealous. You're like, I should have them. Well, maybe they have a really awesome, amazing, sweet, genuine, giving personality. And while you're over here flaunting these material things, it might have been, the cost of having a good heart that got you into this good relationship that's, making everybody else jealous, right? So there's a cost to everything. If you see someone in a relationship and you're like, man, I wish I had a person like that. Don't be jealous. Go talk to them. Ask them, hey, I just want to get up in your business a little bit. I see y'all relationship, and I just wish I had someone that would treat me this way. Could you talk about how did y'all meet? What do you like about him? What do you like about her? How long y'all been together? How do you maintain this relationship? How do you talk to each other? How do you handle art? Go have a conversation. Figure out what that thing costs. Don't be jealous of it. Pay the cost. It's that simple. And then, it talks about servants, oxes, donkeys, and anything that belongs to your neighbor that's getting into like wealth and translate. Don't be jealous. Work. Do the work. Don't be jealous for it. Do the work. All right. So, yeah. So, thank you. We're, running out of time here, but we got a chance to, look through the 10 Commandments, look at a few of them, just a handful, and dig deep into. Oh, let me jump back in on this, the one we just talked about, the coveting and jealousy. If you can get through that, because a lot of times the ones before that, we talks about murdering, adultery, which is cheating in a marriage, stealing, giving false testimony, lying on somebody's name, saying they did something that they didn't do, lying on them in court, stuff like that. You might do that because you're jealous. You know what I'm saying? So rather than take that jealousy, that desire for someone else's stuff that far, that might get you breaking other commandments, murdering, adultering, stealing, giving false testimony. Do the work. Everything has a cost. If you want it, go have a conversation, determine the cost, then just ask yourself a simple question. Am I willing to pay the cost? That's simple. But yeah, we talked about the 10 Commandments. We talked about the reason, a little bit of the reason why God gave them the commandments. We've talked about, they really break down to, hey, how am I going to relate to God and how am I going to relate to other people? All right. So, I challenge you to say, hey, how many of these commandments can you honor? Or not even putting that much weight on it. Can I do the right thing? Can you do the right thing? Can you treat people right? Can you show honor to your parents? Can you make a commitment to getting closer to God? It's going to be a process. You're going to mess up along the way, and there's a whole lot of other stuff with that. But can you at least make an effort? Can you try? Can you try? The good thing about the laws of God, the commandments, is not only does it showcase a way of life, it gives us a chance to showcase, the wrong that's in us. The only, commandments you have a problem with are the ones that you want to break, and you want to break it because there's something that's not quite right inside of you. So there's also another thing. Anytime you find a commandment or a law or something that God is asking you to do or his people to do, and if you just don't agree with it, that's an excellent place to start a conversation, to start learning. What is it about me? What is in me? What is going on in my head? What is my mindset that makes me not agree with what God is, commanding me to do? And you're going to learn so much. You're going to get close to God. That's a great place to start, because it's going to showcase your heart. And, that's what God wants to change in you, your heart. Remember, he gave the commandments to the people that were enslaved, moving into freedom. He had to change their insides. He had to work on their minds and their hearts. Some of these commandments, they showcase, hey, this is in your heart. We got to work this thing out. It's the same thing with you, Fix your heart, fix your mind, worship God, love. But guys, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for sharing this time with us. Thank you for your time. Be sure you tune in to more CYM TV. Peace.
Y'all, I was out there and it was cold and but froze my hands off. But I wanted to make sure that we ended it with a prayer. So let's take this time to pray out. I want to pray with you. Dear Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for allowing us to come together to have the opportunity to study your word and learn more about you and learn more about ourselves and learn more about how you relate to us and what it is that you want us to do. God, I just ask that you be with each and every one of us, bring these teachings back to our remembrance in the time of need, bring them back to us in the time of need, and just bless us, Lord. Be with us. Be with us in our homes, keep us healthy, keep us safe, and most importantly, Lord, love on us and show us our purpose. Reveal to us our purpose, things that you would have us to do. We love you and we praise you. In Jesus' name, amen.